Hey, this is Double R. And I wanted to tell you that Anchor by Spotify is a great and easy way to make a podcast with everything you need and all in one place. Anchor has the tools to allow you to record, edit your podcast straight from your phone or your computer. When hosting with Anchor, you can distribute your podcast to all listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Best of all, it's totally free. So go down the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. This is the Let's Roll podcast with your host, Double R. What up, everybody? It's me, Double R, the host of Rose and Most, and this is the Let's Roll podcast. Today's episode is Disabled Travel. I'm going to talk about experiences that I've gone through with traveling, vacation trips, etc., and the challenges that come with it. That and much more right after this. So as I have said in the previous episode, especially my summertime episode, so summertime baby episode, I talked a little bit about going on vacations, traveling a little bit. So in this episode, I want to dive more into traveling, at least my experiences of traveling, being disabled. And as we all know, if you haven't already listened to past episodes, I have a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. It's OI for short, which means basically brittle bones. All of my connective tissues, not damaged, but they're brittle. My bones are brittle, my teeth are brittle. There's a lot of other issues that come with OI. But for the most part, I use a wheelchair to get around. So I have always used a wheelchair. Used to be 3'10", probably about 3'8" now. Now at my age at 52, I'm heavier than I should be. I'm definitely heavier. So when I was younger, traveling wasn't that big of a deal because I was small. I was easy to pick up and carry. Did use a wheelchair to go around places. I've been to several places in this country. I've never been outside this country. But I've been to several different states and places within the United States. I've experienced as much as I could being disabled and with the condition that I have. But there are challenges, there are obstacles and things in the way when it comes to traveling. So when I was younger, the only time that I ever remember being on a plane was we went on vacation one year to California. And of course, I was carried onto the plane, carried off the plane. The wheelchair was checked in with luggage, so I didn't have my wheelchair on the plane or even getting onto the plane, I don't think. So I don't think I had the wheelchair. The use of the wheelchair, I don't think I used to go all the way down to the door of the plane. I think my mom, my dad, somebody carried me. So that wasn't an issue. Even then, it wasn't even an issue if I had to go to the bathroom because my mom could just carry me to the bathroom. So there wasn't a whole lot of issues when it came to flying on a plane when I was younger, but I only remember doing it once I was younger. I've traveled twice since then, an adult. Get into more of that in a minute. Some of the things that we would run into when we would go on vacations is some of the activities that my mom or my dad or my brother wanted to do, I wasn't able to do. Even going to California and going to Disneyland, there was a lot of rides that I wasn't able to get on. One, because of my height, and two, we just didn't feel it was safe enough for me to do rides. So it was limiting in that aspect to being able to have fun, do things that, able-bodied people. As I got older, it became a little bit more difficult. We would go on vacations, as I said in the summer episode, we would go on vacation almost every summer. We would also go on camping trips in November. And we would have those issues of, what I could do, what I couldn't do. We would travel because it just, there was a lot of things that just got in the way. Um, Again, younger, it wasn't too difficult because I didn't use a wheelchair a lot when I was younger, unless we were just out in public or, like going to a theme park or something like that. Uh, there was a lot of walking or I'll say like traveling or whatever. I would use a wheelchair, but like at a campground, I wouldn't use the wheelchair at the campground. I'd crawl around everywhere, climb up or climb down or whatever. So it wasn't too difficult. I do remember this one vacation. In most of our vacations, we would camp. We would take a travel trailer or we would take a pop up trailer and we would go stay at campgrounds. And then we would go sightseeing in whatever area that we went to. And I remember this one time that we went to, I'm going to say it was in Colorado. It seemed like almost all of our vacations were in Colorado. But this one time, my mom and my dad and my brother were going to go river rafting. There is no way I'm going because that's just way too dangerous. So this campground had this like community, I'll say like community building that had like a little gift shop that had, you could get drinks and chips and whatever. You could buy all kinds of knickknacks in it. And then they had this big community room that had a TV. And I think they had board games you could play or whatever. So they talked to the people at the campground and asked if it would be okay if I just stayed there while they went river rafting. So that's what I'm talking about. There's certain things that I wasn't able to do, and they really couldn't take me with them because they were going to start down this river in this raft, and they couldn't leave me where they started because that's not where they were going to end up. So I spent pretty much all day that day at this little community building until they got back. And then I went back to the campsite, and by the time I got back, it was late or whatever. But they had to be back before the place closed. But we ran into things like that when I would go. Then when I got older, and things kind of changed when it came to traveling, and I'm going to get into that right after this. So, as I said previously, I have traveled on an airplane as an adult 2 more times. I traveled once when I was younger, twice as I was older. And the first time I traveled as an adult without my mom, my dad, or my brother was when I got married. And this was in 2007. And me and my wife at the time were going to Las Vegas on the honeymoon. And this was the first time that I experienced getting on and off a plane, all the nuances and the stress and the anxiety and all this as an adult when it came to traveling. And first concern that me and my wife had was, where do we go for our honeymoon that's going to be somewhat accessible and easy for us to get around, because I was disabled and she is legally blind. So wherever we were going to go, we weren't going to be able to drive ourselves. So after talking to family members and I talked to my brother, he suggested Vegas, and so we went to Vegas. And he suggested just stay on the Strip, because the Strip, you can walk the Strip or roll the Strip in my case, and you can pretty much go to almost every hotel and go check out the casinos in each hotel and go to the different buffets and hotels and blah, blah, blah. They also had a monorail system that we could get on and on. I mean, off and on easy. And we could go to each hotel or whatever and blah, blah, blah. And then to get to the other side of the Strip, we just had to go find a place that was safe enough for us to cross. And they do have a couple of different bridges that go over straight between the two sides of the Strip. So it worked out as far as going there. It worked out well. It wasn't bad at all. We were limited to what we could do because of the lack of, or the inability to drive ourselves. And the fact that I really didn't want to pay what I thought was outrageous to have somebody drive us to different other things that we could have gone and checked out or done. But that being said, the biggest issue that I had was getting on and off plane. And given the fact that I didn't have my brother or my mom or my dad had passed before I got married. I didn't have any close family members that I was used to going with us. It was just me, my wife, and she's got a disability, so I'm kind of, man, I am so like unsure of everything. And of course, my first experience was, so we rolled down the ramp down to the door of the plane, and they brought out what they call an aisle chair, which is not the best thing in the world. And given the fact that I'm kind of wide bodied, I was wider than the chair. So I really had to suck it in and bring my arms in. And of course, I didn't get seats that were close to the front of the plane. And it was nerve wracking. The other issue is that I'm going to be stuck in this seat for however long the flight is. I'm not going to be able to get up and go to the bathroom or anything like that. Possibly could have peed there, but in the cabin with a bunch of people. I've learned over the years that I just need to watch what I eat and drink when I know that I'm not going to be able to just go to the bathroom if I don't have easy access to the bathroom. So, and then go through the whole experience again to get off the plane. That was the part that probably bugged me the most. And then, just having the anxiety of, okay, now we're in Vegas. I'm disabled, she's legally blind, and we got to navigate all the obstacles and things in our way while we're here in Vegas. And it just kind of nerve-wracking. And it was a good experience. I learned that I could handle it. I didn't like handling the plane part. That plane part was probably the biggest issue I had as far as traveling goes. Some of the other issues, of course, we run into, not being able to get closer to a stage, or the handicap seating was limited to, certain areas, and it was stuff like that. But that's a given. That's a given just going to the theater, movie theater sometimes. So the second time that I traveled, as an adult, I traveled on a plane again. And this time I went to Baltimore to the Osteogenesis Imperfecta National Conference. And this time I was with my mom. So it was me and my mom traveling. So I had to experience the whole get on and off the plane again. And both times that I have traveled, I had a manual chair. Actually, all 3 times that I've traveled, I've had a manual chair. So I didn't really have a nightmare of them damaging my wheelchair as much as I would have it now having a power chair. I've seen videos, and a matter of fact, that trip, my friend Ed had a power chair, and they actually broke his chair getting it off, either getting it on or off the airplane. And so he had to go through that experience. So as an adult, I just decided that if I can't drive to the place that I want to travel to, or have somebody drive me to the place I want to travel to, I am not going, because I am not getting on and off a plane anymore. And which kind of sucks, because I really would like to go to Australia. I'd like to go there and let that be my first trip out of the United States. But I'm not going to do the airplane ride. I have thought about, even though it would take a lot of money, I have thought about going on a cruise ship to like Australia. Find one that would go to Australia, and then just, get the experience of going on a cruise, go over to Australia, and then come back on a cruise. That could be like a month-long trip. But that would probably be the only way that I would go somewhere out of this country, is either it's going to be by some kind of travel by car, possibly a bus, or maybe even a train. I don't see me doing the train. I could see maybe doing the bus. or going on a cruise ship. But I am not going on a plane. Not doing it anymore. It's so inconvenient, and it's not very accessible. Some people might not have a problem with that, and good for you. I have friends that have a lot that will still travel on an airplane, and that's great, and I'm glad, but it's not for me anymore. No planes. Um, I even thought about going to Branson, Missouri one time, and my parents had gone there, but I had never been. And so, talking to my mom, Branson is it, and she said the only issue that she thought I would have is that it's very hilly. Like it's like there's all dips and valleys and the way the land is. And she described this one theater they were going to see a show at, and how the parking lot was not level. It was, very so that kind of discouraged me of going. Now I might be totally different now that I'm in the power chair. But again, if I can drive there, which I could drive to Missouri, I mean, let's look at it this way. I could go to Mexico, I could go to Canada, and I could go anywhere in the United States driving. So I could definitely travel within the country. But I am not getting on a plane ever again. Some of the experiences that I had, though, it's going back to the airplane, is getting on, not the so-called getting on, but getting checked in and everything, and how I can't go through a metal detector, and they'll wave a wand around me and kind of pat me down like they would do anybody else. But that was kind of a weird deal, because I can't go through a metal detector, and I would get up to it, and then they go, "Oh, come around this way." And now that airport security, the way it is now, they make me take off my shoes. I'm like, really? What am I gonna do? I always used to joke about how I thought I could take my wheelchair apart and have just being stupid, but I usually, like the last couple of times again that I traveled, I eliminated a lot of stuff that I normally would carry on my wheelchair, and I just packed it in my bags. My bags were checked. Everything I would need on my wheelchair would just be in my suitcase. Once I got to where I was going, I put everything back. I would have very bare minimum of what I needed with me on my chair. So, but that's kind of it. It was a lot easier for me to travel and go on trips and stuff when I was younger versus now that I'm older. The only other problems that I could talk about would be the accommodations in hotels. And let me take a break, and I'll come back and talk about that a little bit. So when it comes to traveling, I've stayed in several different hotels, motels, and I would say this. They are accessible for, I'm going to say it like this, average people with disabilities. And when I say average, I mainly mean more like people that were able-bodied that are now disabled for whatever reason. So they still have their long arms or full upper body strength or whatever. They're more accessible for them. A lot of places are not accessible for me just because of my body, my reach. So it's very rare do I get a room, if at all, that is good enough for me. The main concern is just being able to get in to the restroom and be able to go to the restroom. The bath or shower or whatever area, I prefer a bathtub because it's easier for me, but I still got to deal with the fact that I got to get in and out of this tub. Grab bars are not going to be in the right position for me, and so a hotel room being totally adapted for me would be impossible. Or I wouldn't say impossible, but it would just be unrealistic for me to think that every room that I stay in is going to be adapted to me. So, and that's just like every bathroom is not adapted to me. Any places. Again, I go back to the fact that I've learned and not to either drink a whole lot when I'm out doing things because the difficulty of going to the restroom kind of comes into play because of the bathrooms being so different in every place you go to. went into one bathroom and I'm like, it is really not an accessible stall, like the way I would say a stall should be. Not, and I'm not saying for me, I'm just saying for the average disabled person. It's just not big enough. I barely got in there. So, but yeah, there's, just in general, places to stay become an issue somewhat. The ability to go see attractions and sites and stuff becomes an issue. So it's, I remember wanting to go to New York, and I asked my boss that had just came back. I asked her, I said, well, is New York accessible enough for someone with a disability or like me? And she said, not really, because there's a lot of places that you go downstairs into that don't have elevators. And one of the places I wanted to go to at the time was WWF or WWE had a restaurant in New York. I was like, I'd like to go check that out if I ever went to New York. But it was downstairs. It wasn't, you went downstairs to go in it. And for as far as she knew, there was no way for me to get down there. So it's stuff like that that kind of bums me out sometimes. Because there's some places I like to go check out and see, but accessibility is the problem. And again, like I've said before, I don't believe that we can, I'm realistic in believing that we can't make everything 100% accessible for the disabled. We have to take it when it comes. And now I will say this, I definitely believe that anything new being built absolutely has to be made accessible as much as possible, even by law. But do I think something like an older building or something that's been around forever should be accessible? If you can make it accessible as possible, yes. But am I going to demand that something made accessible that's been around for a while? No, I'm not that kind of person. So I do limit traveling. I don't travel very much anymore now that I'm an adult. I would like to, but I don't want to do it by myself. And I would like to have somebody that can say, hey, let's go do something. Let's go travel to, wherever. Go check it out. Now, gas prices at the time are kind of high, so that's even more of a challenge. But, I would make it work if I really wanted to go. I would make it work, and I would find somebody to go with me and hang out and whatever. With that being said, thank you for coming out, listening to the episode. Continue to support the podcast. Look forward for more episodes. And also, I haven't mentioned this in the past episodes, but I am working on, and I've tried it once, but I am working on doing a weekly stream on, it's either going to be on Twitch or YouTube or both, where you just come and hang out with me, and I play music because I am a DJ, and we just have fun for about an hour. If it's going well, we'll go longer than an hour. But I am working on that to get that more set up and work all the kinks out. But I've done it once. I was supposed to do it at the time of this recording. This is August 1st, 2022. This past weekend I was supposed to do it on Saturday, which I didn't do it, and then I said I was going to do it Sunday. But I'm still working everything out, working all the kinks out and getting it set up the way I want so I can do it more often. But look for that. Always check us out on all of our social media. Check us out on the Letsrollpodcast.com. And as always, until next time, let's roll.
Hey, this is Paula, and you're listening to the Let's Roll podcast with host Double R. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media. Find links in the description below or at the Letsrollpodcast.com.